is the study of the measurements of triangles and trigonometric functions and their applications. That's a mouthful. Okay? Trig ratios, so we're going to talk about 3 different trig ratios. They relate the side of a right triangle to its acute angles. So essentially what that's saying is you got to have a right triangle, and we're figuring out how the sides relate to all the other angles inside the triangle besides the acute angle, or besides the right angle. Okay? Okay. Let's see what's next. Okay, before we talk about what sine, cosine, and tangent are, those are your 3 trig ratios. I'm going to give you a little mnemonic, I don't know, to help you remember your ratios. Okay? It's called SOHCAHTOA. Write it down. SOHCAHTOA. Since this day forward, you are never going to forget. SOHCAHTOA. Alright? SOHCAHTOA is your 3 trig ratios. Okay? So S is sine, C is cosine, T is tangent. Okay? And then the other 2 letters help us remember the actual ratios. Okay? How you remember SOHCAHTOA is a little saying. And I promise this is not something I made up. This is used universally in math. And for the sake forward, you're never going to forget it. Okay? So how do you remember SOHCAHTOA? Some old hippie caught another hippie tripping on acid. Right? I did not make that up, I promise. I learned that in my geometry class. I learned it in geometry in college. So some old hippie caught another hippie tripping on acid. Okay? That's how you remember SOHCAHTOA. Alright, so let's explain what exactly SOHCAHTOA is. Okay? So sine is our first trig ratio, S. Okay? So sine, your ratio is opposite, so that's what the O stands for, opposite, over hypotenuse, or O over H. So that's your SO in your mnemonic. SOHCAHTOA. So sine is the opposite over hypotenuse. Okay? So let's talk about what that means. Okay, so if I'm looking at the sine of A, your abbreviation for sine is just SIN. Okay, so please don't call that sin. Okay, it's sine. Alright? So the sine of A, how are we going to figure that out? Okay, so the sine of A. Alright? So the sine of A, so we're looking for the sine of angle A. Remember that your capital letters are your angles, your lowercase letters are your sines. Okay, so the sine of A, first of all, I need the opposite. So what that means is I need the leg opposite angle A. And then I need the hypotenuse. Okay, so if my legs are named A, you get the idea of B and C. Alright, so to figure out this ratio, I need the leg opposite angle A, and then I need the hypotenuse in the denominator. Okay? So which letter, A, B, or C, denotes the leg that is opposite of angle A, or across from? Which leg, A, B, or C, is opposite angle A? A, lowercase a, right? Lowercase a. And then what's my hypotenuse? C. Okay, so for example, like, if I was trying to figure out the sine of this angle and I had 2 and 5, my ratio would be 2/5. The leg opposite divided by the hypotenuse. Okay? I promise this will make more sense once we do examples. Okay, let's, just for practice, sine of angle B. So now we're looking at this angle up here. What is the leg opposite of angle B? Lowercase b. And my hypotenuse is still C. Okay, so for sine You need the leg opposite the angle divided by the hypotenuse. Okay? So that is your SO of your trig ratio. Okay? The next one is cosine of A. Okay? Cosine, your ratio for that is adjacent over hypotenuse. Or for your co and your mnemonic, A over H. Anyone remember what adjacent means? Next to, good, next to. Okay, so adjacent is going to be the leg next to the angle, not the leg across from it. Okay, you've only got two legs to choose from, so the leg that is next to the angle. Okay. The abbreviation for cosine is COS, not cos. COS stands for cosine. Okay, so the cosine of A means I need the leg that's adjacent or next to angle A divided by the hypotenuse. Alright, so let's look at our picture. What is the leg of this triangle that is adjacent or next to angle A? B, good, lowercase b. That's the leg. There's only two legs you can choose from. The one next to angle A is B. And then my hypotenuse is still C. Okay. And once again, just for practice, we'll do cosine of angle B. So looking at your picture, what leg of this triangle is adjacent to angle B? What leg is adjacent to angle B? A, good. And then once again, my hypotenuse is still C. Okay, so that's cosine, adjacent over hypotenuse, your cup of your SOHCAHTOA. Alright, and then the last trig ratio that we'll talk about in this class, at least, is tangent. Okay, tangent is opposite over adjacent. So there's no hypotenuse involved with tangent. That's your TOA of your mnemonic, TOA. So tangent is opposite over adjacent. Okay, your abbreviation for tangent is just TAN or TAN. That one it's okay to say TAN, but I would still prefer if you said tangent. Alright, so tangent of A means I need the leg opposite angle A, and I need to divide that by the leg adjacent angle A. Alright, so let's look at our picture. Which leg is opposite angle A? Lowercase a. Good. And then which which leg is adjacent or next to angle A? Lowercase b. Good. So, like I said, tangent doesn't involve tangent doesn't involve your hypotenuse at all. Okay. So SOHCAHTOA, know it for the rest of your life. Okay, come in handy on the ACT. You're definitely going to hear it in Algebra 2. You're definitely going to hear it in pre-calc. And if you take calculus, you're going to hear it in calculus. Okay, here on out, SOHCAHTOA does not go away in that. Okay. All right, let's do some very basic examples. Okay. So you need to write each trig ratio as a simplified fraction and as a decimal rounded to the nearest hundred. How many decimal places is nearest hundred? 2. Okay. So, TOA. Alright? So I'm looking for the sine of L. Okay? So that means I need to look at angle L. Alright? Remind me what sine is. What's the ratio? Opposite over hypotenuse. Over H. Okay? So that means I need the leg that's opposite angle L. What leg is opposite of angle L? 6. And what is the hypotenuse? 10. So 6 over 10. Alright? Always reduce. Okay? I need to reduce this fraction. So I can divide both of those by 2. And what is 6/10 reduced? 3/5. Good. Okay? And then in your calculator for me, because we probably don't know what 3/5 is off the top of my head, 3 divided by 5 or 6 divided by 10, it doesn't matter. Should be 0.6. Or 0.60 since we were asked to round to 2 decimal places. 0.60. Alright. Alright, number 2. I need the cosine of L. Okay, so I'm still working with angle L. What is cosine? What is the ratio for cosine? Adjacent over hypotenuse. Good. So I need the leg adjacent or next to angle L and divide that by the hypotenuse. Okay? So which leg is adjacent or next to angle L? 8. Good. And then my hypotenuse is still 10. Alright, once again, I need to reduce that fraction. So divide both those by 2. What is 8/10 reduced? 4/5. And as a decimal, what is that? 0.080. Good. Alright. Number 3, I need the tangent of angle M. Okay, so we're switching to angle M. Remind me of the ratio for tangent. Opposite over adjacent. Good. Okay, so we're looking at angle M. We're looking at the angle up here. Which leg is opposite angle M? 8. Good. So remember, opposite means across from. And then which leg is adjacent or next to angle 8? 6. Okay. Can I reduce 8 over 6? Divide both those by 2? Yeah. What does that reduce to? 4/3. And as a decimal, 1.33 repeating. And remember, to denote repeating, you put a line over it. Okay, so 1.33 repeating. Alright? Alright, and then lastly, number 4, I need the cosine of M. So we said a cosine was what? Adjacent over hypotenuse. So remind me again, the leg adjacent, angle M. What is it? 6. And the hypotenuse is 10. So that is 3/5, which we already said was 0.6. So notice that for the sine of L and cosine of M, they were the same even though we were looking at different angles because we're looking at the same parts of the triangle. Okay, so some of these values can be the same if you're using the same parts of the triangle. Okay? Alright, with those around you, I would like you to do the next 4. Okay, so you're looking at a different triangle, still same approach. Okay, so write each trig ratio as a fraction. I don't think any of these fractions can reduce. And then as a decimal, round it to the nearest hundredth. Okay, I'll give you 1 or 2 minutes to do those. Work with those around you, compare your answers. You're doing the exact same thing we just did, just with a different triangle. use your SOHCAHTOA, okay?
Is he gonna use it? Post you guess or everything? Yes.
Alright, I will say that with these trig lessons, you can do this in your own calculator. I just wanted you to have one of these handy because you'll need a quiz. So like you can do it on your regular calculator, you can even do it on your phone if you turn your phone sideways. You can do it on a normal calculator like that. Okay? Yeah. We're about to go over this. So that's your sign. Yes, we're about to work with those. We'll work on them a lot. We'll work with them a lot on the back. Alright. What is the sign of k as a fraction? 15 over 17. Good. Opposite over hypotenuse. So opposite of angle k, that leg is 15. Your hypotenuse is 17. What is that as a decimal? 8 or 8-9? 8. Alright? Cosine of k is what is a fraction? 8 over 17. Okay, so I need the leg adjacent to k, which is 8, divided by your hypotenuse. And what is that as a decimal? What is that as? 0.47, good. Alright. Tangent of h is what is a fraction? Tangent of h. Is it 8 over 15 or 15 over 8? 8 over 15. Okay? 8 over 15. I need opposite of h, which is 8, divided by adjacent, which is 15. Okay, and then as a decimal, I believe that's 0.53 repeating, the 3 repeats. And then lastly, sine of h, what is that as a fraction? 8 over 17, which as a decimal, we, once again, is 0.47. Good. Good. Okay, so know your SOHCAHTOA by heart. Okay, you don't have to know some old hippie got another hippie trick on it. Okay, you don't have to know that. But as long as you can remember SOHCAHTOA and what it stands for, you're good. Okay. What you've probably noticed on your calculator, maybe, is that you have sine, cosine, and tangent. Okay, if you haven't noticed that yet, you're noticing it now because I'm telling you. Okay, so you can click these buttons, like say you have an angle and you want to figure out what the ratio is, you can do that. So let's just do that really quickly. Okay, first thing I want you to do real quick on this calculator is click mode and make sure DEG is flashing. make sure it's folded and flashing DEG. Okay, if it's not, click on it, but everyone's DEG should be flashing. So click mode and then make sure DEG is flashing, okay? Alright, after that you can hit clear to get back to the home screen. And we're simply just going to type this in. So you're going to hit the sign button, which is 2 above number 7, and you're going to type in 33. And then hit enter. Okay, and we're going to round to the nearest hundredth. Okay, so sine of 33 is approximately what? 0.54, yes. Okay, did we all get that? 0.54? And make sure you're getting that. Alright, cosine of 47. So I'm going to hit the button next to the sine, cosine. I'm going to type in 47. What is that rounded to 2 decimal places? 0.68. And then tangent, so that's the one right next to cosine. Tangent of 81. 6.31, perfect. Questions so far? Alright, let's flip to the back. I just realized I never took your sticky notes. Let me have those. Let it go. Alright, now we're going to use these trig ratios to help us solve problems, okay? You're probably thinking, you know, or you probably thought it was a lot of things in this class, let's be honest, or lots of your other classes, you know, when the heck am I going to use this? And you'll see that with trig, we're going to do a bunch of like real life examples from our trigs used in a lot of different places. It's actually pretty cool. Alright, one big caution when you're doing these problems, okay? Do not round until the final step. Okay, so what that's saying is if you still have tangent of 31, okay, so say I wanted tangent of 31, but I wanted to multiply that by 2. Okay, so I'm not going to say 6.31 times 2. I'm going to take this entire answer and multiply it by 2, and then round at the end. Okay, so do not round until the very end. Work with this calculator all the way. Okay, because if you start rounding things before the end, your answers are going to get wrong. Okay, so work with these long decimals, because you don't have to go type it in again. You can just say multiply by 2. Okay, so do not round until the end. Okay. All right. Let's do some examples. All right. I need to find length BC, so that's what I'm going to call x. Okay. I'm given this angle right here is 15 degrees. Okay, you're never going to use the right angle because this is right triangle trick. Every triangle we work with should be a right angle. Okay, so you're going to work with the acute angles. Okay, I'm given 15 degrees is angle B. I'm given that this length is 10.2, and I'm asked to find x. All right, so what you need to ask yourself is which trig ratio can I use based off the information I have? So the total. So I have an angle, and I've got 2 sides. So you need to decide, can I use sine, cosine, or tangent? Tangent, good. Okay, let me explain. Okay, so you're focusing on this angle right here, yes? So you need to ask yourself, that 10.2, opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse? It's opposite, okay? So which one does that automatically throw out? Which one does not have opposite involved? Cosine. Gone. Okay, cosine's out because it's got an opposite, and I don't need an opposite for cosine. And then this x, is it adjacent, opposite, or hypotenuse to angle B? Adjacent. So that throws out sine, so tangent is the way to go. Okay? So just like we set up these last problems, let's see, let me go back to the very beginning. So I said the sine of angle A was my opposite over hypotenuse. So just like that, we're going to do the same thing here. So the tangent of angle B, which is what I have, is opposite over adjacent. And from here, let's fill in the gaps. Right? Tangent of B. What is angle B? 15 degrees. So I'm plugging that in. Tangent of angle B equals, what is opposite of angle B? 10.2. And what's adjacent? X. X is adjacent. Okay? The goal is to figure out what X is. Okay? Let me do something real quick and see if this helps you. Hopefully it'll ring a bell. Anything divided by 1 is itself, right? I've got two fractions. I don't remember what to do. Cross multiply. Very good, very good. Cross multiply. Alright? So let's cross multiply. Alright? X times the tangent of 15 is just X times the tangent of 15. And 10.2 times 1 is 10.2. Alright? Lastly, I need X all by itself. So the operation happening here between X and tangent of 15 is multiplication. How do I get X all by itself? Divide by tan of 15. Good. Okay, so that's what you're going to put in your calculator. Okay, I'm dividing both sides by tangent of 15. Okay, so in your calculator, 10.2 divided by tangent of 15 is going to give you X. And what does it say? So let's round to, let me see what the answer is. Let's just round to 1 decimal place for this one. Alright, so rounded to 1 decimal place. 10.2 divided by the tangent of 15 is 38.1. Before we move on, I need everyone to do that in the calculator to make sure they can get it. 10.2 divided by the tangent of 15. Okay, don't wait on me. I need to know that you can do it. 10.2 divided by the tangent of 15. Getting 38.1? So 38.1 is that leg BC. Okay. Good deal. Alright. Questions on that first one? Let's do it. Alright, number 2, I'm asked to find QR. Okay, so whatever side is asking you to find, label it as X from the get-go. Label it as X. Alright, and I'm given that P is 63 degrees. So that's the angle I'm working with, angle P. Alright, so now I need to start figuring out how the pieces I have relate to that 63 degrees. Okay? 12.9. Opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse? Is it a hypotenuse or adjacent? Hypotenuse, good. Okay, it's across to the right angle. Alright, so that's a hypotenuse. So which trig ratio does that throw out immediately? Tangent, good. Tangent's gone. Tangent doesn't have hypotenuse. Okay, X. How does that relate to 63? Opposite or adjacent? Opposite. Good. So what does that mean? Which trig ratio am I going to use? Sine. Very good. Sine. Okay, so we're going to set it up just like we did the last column. The sine of P equals opposite over hypotenuse. Alright, let's plug everything in. So sine of P is 63 degrees. equals opposite, which is x, over my hypotenuse, 12.9. Yes, Jacob.
Would it be 89 or 0.89?
For your answer? Not quite. Double check your math. Okay, this one we have to do a little differently than the last one. Okay? We're still going to divide by 1 and cross multiply, okay? Alright, but watch what happens when I cross multiply. X times 1 is just x, right? So x is all by itself already. What I need to do now is say 12.9 times the sine of 63. Let me clean this up just so that way it's a little easier. So sine of 63 over 1 is x over 12.9. When you cross multiply, x times 1 is x. I need to multiply 12.9 by sine of 63. Okay? So go ahead and do this in your calculator. 12.9 times the sine of 63. And, let's see. You can round it one up. So QR is round to 1 decimal place. 11.5. Should have gotten 11.5. 12.9 times the sine of 63. Anyone not getting that? Alright, so you just have to be careful with each problem. You have to decide based on the problem how it's set up if you need to multiply or divide. Okay. But the cross multiplication should be able to help you with that. Okay. Alright, let's do 3 together, and then I'll have y'all try 4 on your own. Okay. Number 3. I need FD. Mark it. Alright. We need to decide sine, cosine, or tangent. Okay? So, I'm given angle F, so I need to look at how those two sides relate to angle F. Okay? Let's start off with 20. Opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse? Adjacent. So which one does that automatically throw out? Sine. Sine's gone. Okay? X. Opposite, or hypotenuse? Hypotenuse. So which one am I going to use? Cosine or tangent? Cosine. Okay? Because I don't have opposite. Don't have opposite. So I gotta use cosine. I've got adjacent and a hypotenuse. Okay? So I'm gonna use cosine. Alright, so the cosine of F is adjacent over hypotenuse. Alright, so the cosine of angle F, which is 39 degrees, I'm just going to go ahead and put it over 1, since that's what we've been doing with all the others, equals my adjacent, which is 20, over my hypotenuse, x. And then cross multiply. So when I cross multiply, I get 20 equals x cosine of 39. And how do I get x all by itself? Divide by cosine of 39. So what is FD? What's the length of FD? 25.74, good. Or 25.7, either one. Perfect. 25.74. Good. Alright, once you're done with this one, I want you to try number 4 on your own. Okay? So you need to decide which trig ratio to use, sine, cosine, or tangent, and then you need to go find the side it's asking for. Okay? Work with us. Here are your answers. I'll give you 3 minutes.
Yes.
Okay, label the side it's asking for. That's T. Okay, so now you need to ask yourself, how does everything you have relate to the same? Okay, so 9.5. Okay, opposite means across from. So is 9.5 the opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse? Okay, now you need to ask yourself, is it a hypotenuse? Okay, so if it's a hypotenuse, then it's a hypotenuse. Okay, so you have a hypotenuse. So if you have a hypotenuse,
Hey, yo, Alexa.
which one gets thrown out immediately? Tangent.
Yes,
Okay.
$20.
How does X
Very important.
relate to 43?
I need it.
Adjacent. What are you going to use?
What color is it?
No, sorry. Okay, double check and make sure that, sometimes it looks like it may be adjacent, but it could be a hypotenuse, right?
What is that?
Okay, so be sure you're using the right ratio.
Chicken with the M.
Okay, so you'll always say cosine of 30, cosine of 40.
Yeah, so like the hand drink.
Always
The
the
medium.
cosine of 40
That's the view that you get.
equals adjacent, which one's adjacent? X or not. Which one's your hypotenuse?
If I do it on my feet.
Okay, so your adjacent X then, so that's the right side.
I think it's fine.
And then from there you can talk.
Yeah, yeah, man,
Okay, so when you cross both, right, so one side is this X, so that's gonna be on one side of the cross line. And then 9.5 times this. That'll be your final answer. So essentially what you did is you just skip this, which is okay. So I was just essentially writing it down. So 9.5 times this, here, the X starts back. Round to 1 decimal place, please.
Do you have a purple
Wait, now.
What? It's purple. Which goes.
See that for you?
Not as so if these would have been switched, then your hypotenuse would have been X and that would be. So it just Alright, give me about 30 more seconds. Round to 1 decimal place. So this is adjacent to this, and this is adjacent. But you've got to check if it's a hypotenuse or not. Which one? Is it opposite the right angle? It's this one. Right, if it's adjacent, you've got to check and see if it's a hypotenuse or not. Adjacent can only be a leg, okay? Adjacent cannot be a hypotenuse. Don't forget what hypotenuse means, okay? Don't throw that out the window.
Ow. Ow.
Alright, number 4. So I'm asked to find side ST. Alright, so, and I'm relating everything back to angle T, okay? So how does X relate to angle T? Is it opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse? Adjacent. Okay, so which one does that throw out immediately? Sine gets thrown out immediately. Okay? Because sine doesn't involve adjacent at all. Okay? 9.5. Is that opposite or hypotenuse? Hypotenuse. Okay? It is adjacent to it, but it's a hypotenuse. It's across from the right angle. So which one am I going to use? Cosine. I need y'all paying attention. Okay? I know some of y'all are moving on, and that's fine, but I need y'all paying attention to make sure you're correct. Okay? Alright, so I'm going to use cosine. Alright, so the cosine of my angle, you always put your angle right here. Okay? It's always whatever trig ratio followed by your angle. Okay, so cosine of t is adjacent over hypotenuse. Okay, so the cosine of 42 equals my adjacent is x, and my hypotenuse is 9.5. Okay? And then from here, I need to cross multiply. X times 1 is just x. And then on the other side, I have 9.5 times the cosine of 42. And when you round that to 1 decimal, what do you get? 7.1. 7.1. Alright. I think you get like 7.05, something like that. When you round to 1 decimal place, you get 7.1. Very good. Alright, are there any questions before we do these last 2 problems? I appreciate, as I was walking around, the questions I was getting. Okay, that's what I want from y'all. Ask questions. Okay? I know this stuff is a little confusing at first. It's definitely not like anything you've done before. Okay? So, if you're a little overwhelmed, I get it. But I promise it's fun once you get there. Okay. Alright, let's do these last 2 problems. Alright, so I'm asked to just find the missing side for both of them. Okay? So for number 1, I need to figure out, the first thing you need to do is figure out how each of your pieces relate to the angle you're given. Okay, not the right angle, the other angle you're given. Okay, so let's talk about this 4. Is it opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse to angle E? Opposite. Okay, so that immediately throws out cosine. If it helps you to label it like in your picture as you go, I would encourage you to do it. Okay, and then X. Is it adjacent or hypotenuse? Hypotenuse. Okay, it is adjacent, but remember, adjacent can only be for a leg. Okay, it's across from the right angle, so that X is a hypotenuse. I have O and H. Which one am I using? Sine. Okay, you're going to use sine. Alright, so the sine of angle E equals opposite over hypotenuse. Alright, so the sine of angle E, which is 69 degrees, equals my opposite, which is 4, over my hypotenuse, x. Lastly, cross multiply. So x times the sine of 69 equals 4. How do I get x all alone? Divide. Okay, so you're going to divide when you're trying to get x by itself. If x is already by itself when you're doing the cross multiplication, then you're multiplying. Okay, so don't overthink it. Divide both sides by the sine of angle E. And round to 2 decimal places, right? So 2 decimal places. Sorry, I should have told you that earlier. 4.28, perfect. So x is approximately, that's what those squiggles mean, approximately, because we're rounding. 4.28, good. Alright. How about you try this last one on your own? Okay, so go through and label your picture. Remember, you're relating everything back to angle S. Figure out if it's opposite, hypotenuse, adjacent, whatever, and then round your final answer to 2 decimal places. And then after that, I'll give y'all just a couple minutes to study for your quiz. We'll take your quiz, and then after that, you can start your homework for the day. 2 decimal places, please. Alright, let's go over this very quickly. I'll give you about 5 minutes to study. Which ratio am I going to use? Sine, cosine, or tangent? Cosine or tangent? tangent. Okay? X is opposite, it's not the hypotenuse, okay, your hypotenuse is over here. And then 5.7 is adjacent, so you're going to use tangent. Okay, so the tangent of 57 equals x over 5.7. So 5.7 times tangent of 57, I believe. Oh. No, I knew that wasn't making sense. 71, thank you. 71. Okay, so x is approximately 16.55 or 55? 55. 16.55. Very good. Alright. Your homework will be on Delta Math. Okay, you will need to scratch, obviously. But I'm going to give you the next 5 minutes to study for your quiz. It is on 4.1, 4.2, and 4.3. Okay, so take the next 5 minutes. I'll give you a timer. Study for your quiz. Look over those trig ratios, or not trig ratios, I'm sorry. What we just did is not on your quiz, okay? So it's yesterday's lesson and Thursday's lesson. Okay, so look over your special right triangles. Look over Pythagorean theorem, all that stuff, okay? 5 minutes. Look over whatever you want.
I said